Hey guys, tonight we're traveling back to ancient Sparta, where your childhood dreams of toys and naps are swapped for a life of bruises, yelling, and learning to punch people just right with a bronze-tipped spear. You are about to begin your journey into becoming a Spartan warrior, and spoiler alert, you probably won't survive this. Your breath slows, the moonlight falls cold on stone, and you're just 5 years old. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And if you're awake enough, drop your location and local time in the comments. I always love seeing how far this sleepy little channel reaches. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You stand at the edge of Sparta, dust coating your bare feet, with the Taygetus Mountains watching silently in the distance. Your father, a man who hasn't smiled once in your living memory, tightens his grip on your small shoulder. You've arrived at the heart of the Spartan state, but not for sightseeing. You're here to be judged. This is not the kind of judgment where someone measures your cuteness or asks you to spell your name. No, this is the Elder Circle, a gray-robed committee of Spartan men who look at you like you're a young goat at a meat market. One squats down and presses your ribs. Another tells you to run back and forth. They're not testing your manners. They're checking for deformities, weakness, or any signs that you might not make a good soldier. The stakes: life or literal abandonment on the rocky slopes outside the city. Historians still argue whether this brutal baby evaluation was applied universally or exaggerated by later writers. But what's certain is that Sparta was never in the business of raising citizens who couldn't wield a sword before puberty. The term for this process is the eugenics board, though nobody calls it that back then. They just call it survival. You pass barely. Maybe it's the way your shoulders sit, or how quickly you react to the old man's fake slap test. One of them gives a grunt of approval, which, in Spartan terms, is basically a standing ovation. You're allowed to return to your household for now. But don't get too cozy. You've got 2 more years of home life. And let's be honest, that's a generous term. Your mother teaches you some songs and weaves fabric. Your father teaches you how to not cry when your knuckles split from punching a fig tree. Most families have lullabies. Yours has marching chants and cautionary tales about cowards. Occasionally, you see older boys walking in formation through the village. They're lean and dusty, barefoot, with wild eyes and shaved heads. One catches your gaze once and snarls. You don't snarl back. You just watch. It's like seeing ghosts of boys who used to be children. By age 6, you already understand that being liked isn't important. Being feared, however, is. You've learned to sit still for hours, balance rocks on your head, and, most importantly, never, ever snitch. Your diet consists mostly of barley, goat cheese, and whatever scraps the adults toss your way. Hunger is expected. In fact, it's encouraged. Being hungry builds toughness. The word comfort doesn't even exist in your dialect. Then it happens. Your 7th birthday arrives, and with it, the quiet knock of 2 city officials. They don't smile. No cake. No candles. Just a nod to your mother. She wraps a rough cloth around your shoulders, kisses your forehead once, and then steps back like she's never known you. This is the Agoge, the Spartan education system. Think school, if school were run by wolves. You look at your home one last time. The fig tree you used to punch stands like a sentinel. Your father doesn't even come out. He knows the drill. As you march toward the Agoge barracks with a dozen other boys, you pass a stone wall etched with the words, "Come back with your shield," or on it. You don't know what it means yet, but you will. The first thing they do is take your name away. You are no longer little Alexios or Doros, son of Philemon. Now you are Unit 17. You share a wooden platform with 3 other boys, none of whom look particularly happy about it. One has a black eye already. Another has lice. All of you smell like fear, and not a little urine. At night, there are no beds, just woven mats and your own shivering limbs. No one comforts you. No one asks if you miss your family. And if you cry, someone will hear, and they will hit you for it. You lie there, heart thudding, wondering if you'll live long enough to grow facial hair. You will, but it will come with scars. And yet, deep inside, as the darkness wraps around you, something stubborn begins to take root. A strange kind of pride, a flicker of Spartan steel. Not because it feels good, but because it's the only thing keeping you from running. Morning slams into your bones like a spear to the chest. There are no roosters in the agoge, no soft morning sun creeping through shutters. Instead, a barked order and a sudden slap from a trainer, known charmingly as a paternomos, drag you from whatever scraps of sleep you clung to. You spring up because if you don't, someone else will spring up on you, usually with their fists. Your second day in the agoge begins with something deceptively gentle, a physical inspection. Don't let the word fool you. This isn't like a doctor's checkup. It's more like livestock appraisal with a side of public humiliation. You and your unit line up stark naked. Dirt still crusted in your armpits from yesterday's mud endurance crawl. Feet bleeding from running across sharp pebbles. An elder with a face like a weathered sandal steps forward, pokes at your ribs, lifts your arms, squints at your knees. Occasionally he grunts. If someone flinches, they get hit. If someone laughs, they get hit harder. Sparta doesn't believe in shame, not for the body anyway. They believe in symmetry, muscle tone, and whether you look like you'll grow into someone who can hold a spear and terrify an entire city-state. Mainstream historical sources describe this ritual as a daily practice, and whether that's exaggerated or not, it teaches one clear message. Your body is not yours. It belongs to Sparta. Sometimes you hear stories, whispers, about the babies who didn't pass this inspection when they were born, left on the slopes of Mount Taygetus. The mountain doesn't ask for second opinions. Historians still argue whether this mountain abandonment was a common practice or a literary invention, but either way, its presence looms over you like a second god. You grow up knowing weakness is a sin. Not moral weakness, not emotional softness, physical weakness. That's the real crime. Back in the present, the inspection ends, and the elder turns on his heel without a word. You're still standing there, dusty, bruised, and a little sunburned. Then a different adult, one with an impressively loud voice, orders the group to run. Not a jog, not a friendly, let's get the blood flowing dash. A full-speed stampede through the training yard. Anyone who trips gets trampled. You learn quickly that no one waits for the weak, and Sparta does not have a safety net. The rest of the day is an alternating loop of violence, hunger, and long silences where you are expected to stare straight ahead and reflect on your disgrace. You aren't told exactly what your disgrace is. Maybe it was limping during drills. Maybe your voice cracked when you recited your war hymn. Or maybe the trainers just enjoy the way silence chews at your soul. In between drills, you're allowed to eat, but only barely. The portion is a small hunk of black bread and a few olives. And there's a catch. If you want more food, you're encouraged to steal it. Yes, really. But here's the twist. If you get caught stealing, you're punished. Not for theft, but for being caught. Because in Sparta, being clever matters as much as being strong. You try your luck by sneaking an apple from the kitchen storeroom. You almost get away with it, until a mouse darts out and startles you. You drop the apple, and the trainer hears the thud. The punishment is swift. A few lashes, a public shaming, and a full hour of push-ups in the dust while your fellow trainees are told to throw pebbles at your back. Not large enough to injure, but plenty to sting. You are learning, just not in the way you expected. There's something almost comical about it. Imagine a school where detention involves actual blood, where failing an assignment means limping for 3 days. Sparta doesn't teach through encouragement. It forges through pressure. And sometimes the metal breaks. One boy does break. He begins to cry after a particularly rough wrestling match. He's not even 10, but that doesn't matter. The trainers call him liar, because Spartans don't feel pain. Only liars do. The boy is dragged away, and you never see him again. He might have been sent home in shame. Or worse, you wonder if that will be you someday. But by the gods, you hope not. That night, someone sneaks into your platform and quietly hands you a scrap of dried meat. It's the boy with the black eye from day one. He doesn't say anything, just shoves the meat in your palm and goes back to his place. You chew in the dark, savoring the salt and the strange warmth that comes from not being entirely alone. That's how friendships start here. Not with playdates, but with smuggled food and shared bruises. Then the silence returns. The air is cooler now. The stars are sharp above you, framed by the cracked beams of the training hall's roof. You close your eyes and try to remember your mother's face, but it's already fuzzy around the edges. What you can remember is the way your stomach growled during drills, the way your ribs ached from running, the sting of that whip when you fumbled your stolen apple, and somehow, the strange pride that you're still here, still standing, still Spartan. You are 7 years old when they take you away for good. The morning you leave your home, there's no procession, no waving, no promise that you'll be back soon. Just a final nod from your mother and a tight-lipped stare from your father. That's the goodbye. Silent, efficient. Spartan, you don't know it yet, but you'll never live with your family again. The other boys shuffle beside you, barefoot and blank-faced. One is sniffling. Another tries to pretend he's not crying by coughing into his tunic. No one says a word. You're marched to a gray stone building on the edge of the city. It looks like a prison, and you quickly learn it's not far off. Inside is your new home, bare walls, splintering cots, and the faint scent of blood and oil. You will sleep here, eat here, train here. You'll grow here, maybe. And if you're not strong enough, you'll be forgotten here, too. The Agoj has officially begun. Spartan boys enter the program at age 7, and they don't leave it until 20. That's 13 years of supervised, state-run suffering. Think school, but remove the learning, desks, and recess. Replace them with beatings, drills, and what modern historians might generously call character building through physical trauma. Your clothes are taken away, replaced with a single rough cloak that smells like it's been passed down through several unlucky ancestors. No sandals, no undergarments. You will wear this cloak all year, through heat, cold, rain, and frost. The idea is to toughen you up. Historians still debate whether Spartans really wore just one cloak year-round, but contemporary sources insist they were taught to endure all weather without complaint. Which is ironic, because right now you're very much complaining. Internally, of course. Out loud, you keep a straight face. Anything else invites fists. The first task, learn obedience. You're lined up in rows and ordered to stand perfectly still. For hours. If your nose itches, too bad. If your knees tremble, good. Let them shake. One boy shifts his weight slightly and earns a swift cuff to the side of the head. Blood mixes with dirt. Nobody reacts. Obedience isn't just a rule here. It's a sacred virtue. The Paidonomos patrols with a thin wooden rod, tapping it in his palm like he's waiting to use it. And he usually does. You hear a rumor that he once broke a boy's finger just for smiling during sword practice. You believe it. You're also taught silence. Not just keeping your mouth shut, but cultivating a silence so strong it can win arguments. Spartan boys are expected to speak laconically, short, sharp, and devastating. A full sentence is considered extravagant. Wit is prized. Jokes are weapons. And you're beginning to sharpen yours. At night, after the drills, when your shoulders burn and your calves throb, the boys whisper stories in the dark. Most of them are about older kids. Legends, really. One who bit off another's ear during a wrestling match and swallowed it. Another who was beaten for hours and never blinked. These are your new role models. You start practicing little things to become like them. Standing still longer, pretending the pain doesn't register, tightening your jaw when a trainer slaps the back of your head just because. You learn to tie your cloak tighter to keep warm, or rub your arms with sand to stop shivering. One night, a boy next to you has a nightmare. He whimpers. It wakes the dorm. The Paidonomos appears within seconds like a ghost summoned by weakness. The boy is dragged outside. The door slams. No one sleeps after that. The next morning, he's back. Eyes red, face swollen. But he's not removed. That's not how Sparta works. They don't want you dead yet. They want you shaped. And shaping is painful. You're introduced to basic weapons. A wooden sword, heavier than you expected. You swing it wrong and whack yourself in the shin. You don't cry. The sting in your leg is easier to bear than the sting of humiliation. Later, you get your first taste of group punishment. One boy, of course it's always one, sneaks out to find food. He's caught, obviously. But instead of punishing him, the trainers punish all of you. That's the point. Shame and pain are to be shared. You run laps until you vomit. Then you're made to clean it up with your cloak. That night, that same cloak becomes your blanket, your pillow, your towel, your shield. It's the only thing you own now. Spartan society was obsessed with cohesion. You succeed or fail as a unit. That's how phalanxes hold together in war, and how boys learn to hold each other up in suffering, or down if needed. You start to feel a change. Your muscles ache, but they're growing. You are thinner, faster, sharper. You still miss home, but only in a vague, dreamlike way now. You start to understand that the person you were back there, the child, is gone. You are becoming something else. A creature of reflex, silence, and tension. Something harder and colder, but not fully. There's still a scrap of softness in you. It shows when you share your bread with a boy who limps, or when you help clean the wounds of the one who fell face first in the gravel. Little things. Quiet rebellions against a system that only respects power. Of course, you're careful not to get caught. By the end of your first year in the Agoge, you've lost a tooth, gained 2 scars, and learned 50 ways to ignore hunger. You can recite entire hymns in rhythm with your footsteps, and you've learned to sleep with one eye open. You still flinch sometimes. You're working on that. You are 7 years old, and you are a Spartan in training. You wake to pain. Again, there's no particular reason this time. No punishment, no fight, no special torment. Just the everyday soreness that seeps into your bones from sleeping on straw and stone. Your joints crack. Your shoulders ache from yesterday's shield drills. Your stomach snarls at you like a hungry dog. A typical morning in the Agoge. Welcome to your new normal. The day begins with a run, as always. But not just any run. A barefoot sprint through sharp gravel. You learn to adjust your gait, so the stones cut less. Kind of. Mostly. You just bleed and deal with it. Today's lesson isn't about obedience or silence. It's about pain. You are expected to endure it. More than that, you are expected to master it. The trainers teach you how to clench your jaw without grinding your teeth, how to blink slowly when struck, how to breathe through a cracked rib without wheezing. They say pain is a teacher. You start to suspect it's also your roommate. Mainstream historians agree that Spartan boys were routinely subjected to harsh treatment as part of their education, though whether it was quite this brutal or just very well branded by ancient propaganda is still debated. Either way, you're not arguing with bruises. Today's pain lesson comes with a special activity: theft. Yes, again, you're told to sneak into the storeroom and take a handful of cheese without being seen. Why cheese? Who knows? Maybe it's symbolic. Maybe the trainers just like watching you squirm. You and 3 others plot your strategy in whispers. One distracts the guard by pretending to faint. Another slips behind the storage shed. You're the lucky one who actually grabs the cheese. And it works, almost. You get your hand on the prize. You even manage to turn and run. But just as you reach the corner, a guard's hand shoots out like a snake and grabs you by the neck. Busted. They don't punish you right away. No, they wait until evening, until all the boys are assembled, sweaty and trembling from the day's drills. Then they call your name. You stand. They hand you a wooden board and instruct you to lie on it. Then the lashes come, short, sharp, and methodical. One for every rule you broke. Not for stealing, of course. That part was fine. You're being punished for your clumsiness. The pain lights up your back like fire. You don't cry. You grit your teeth. You picture your future self, bigger, stronger, cloaked in crimson, admired by man and feared by enemies. It helps. A little. When it's over, they say nothing. No lecture. No explanation. Just the cold silence of expectation. Later, another boy offers you a scrap of the cheese you dropped. You share it with him without a word. The cheese is cold and tastes faintly of dust. But it's yours. You earned it. In blood. The lesson, twisted as it is, lands hard. In Sparta, pain is currency. It buys you respect. It earns you your place. You limped to bed that night, backstriped with welts, but oddly proud. You survived another test. You didn't break. And in the agoge, that's all that matters. There are other kinds of pain, too. Emotional ones. Quiet ones. Like the moment you see an older boy flinch when he hears a flute. A song you don't recognize, but clearly he does. A lullaby, maybe. He covers it up by punching the nearest wall and calling the musician weak. But you see it. That second of longing. The one you recognize in yourself when you think of figs, or warm baths, or your mother's hand. You wonder how long it takes to forget what softness feels like. You also wonder if you'll ever stop checking your back for new bruises. One night, you're woken early. It's pitch black, but the Paternomos is already shouting. Today is a surprise day, which is just a polite way of saying no one is safe. You're taken out to the training field in the dark and told to find your way through a maze of posts and pits blindfolded. There are hidden ropes meant to trip you, stones waiting for your shins. It's a perfect blend of obstacle course and sensory confusion. You stumble, fall, bleed, but you finish. You always finish. Because the worst fate in Sparta isn't death, it's failure. One of your friends doesn't finish. He collapses halfway, exhausted and weeping. He doesn't return to your dorm that night. Rumor says he's been reassigned, or dismissed, or worse. No one speaks of him again. The message is clear. Sparta trims its own. And yet, despite all this, you begin to adapt. Your body hardens. You eat less and ache less. You learn to run silently, strike quickly, and lie convincingly. You know when to keep your head down, when to speak up, and when to say just enough to escape punishment. You're learning the unspoken rules, the same ones generations of Spartan boys learned before you. At dinner, you're given thin broth and black bread. It's awful. Always has been. Always will be. You pretend it tastes better than it does, and joke that one day you'll open a tavern called the Mud Ladle. The boy next to you snorts milk through his nose. You both get smacked for frivolity. But the laughter is worth it. Even in Sparta, humor survives. A fringe detail preserved by Plutarch mentions boys would sometimes sneak in jokes during inspection to test the limits of their wit and their punisher's patience. It's dangerous, but for some, it's the only thing that still feels like theirs. As you settle onto your mat that night, muscles twitching and eyes sore, you feel the ache of growth. Not just physical, something deeper. A hardening, yes, but also an awareness. You are not who you were. You are becoming Spartan, and pain is now your closest companion. You don't remember the last time you were warm. Not comfortably warm, truly warm. The kind of warmth that creeps into your bones and makes your shoulders drop, your toes uncurl. The kind of warmth that doesn't come with the sting of a switch or the threat of someone watching too closely. No, you remember cold. Biting wind that cuts through your single, scratchy cloak. Rain that soaks your sleeping mat, then freezes in the folds. Dew that turns to frost before dawn. That's what you know now. Because Spartan boys are not given blankets. That's not a metaphor. You actually don't have one. You're expected to sleep on a bed of reeds that you're told to gather yourself. No knife allowed. Pulling them by hand is meant to toughen your fingers. Of course, if you scrape your palm or get a splinter. Tough. No bandages either. This part of your training is simple in theory. Learn to endure nature without complaint. Learn to treat discomfort as a friend. If it rains, you stand in it. If it snows, you train barefoot. If you freeze, well, you learn to freeze bravely. Historians still debate whether this was truly everyday reality or a stylized myth of Spartan resilience. But every scrape and shiver feels real enough to you now. It becomes almost a competition. Who can act the least affected by the cold? You learn to sleep with your cloak wrapped tightly around your head, breathing only through a slit to avoid frostbite on your lips. One boy goes the extra mile and rubs his arms with olive oil stolen from the bathhouse to block the wind. He smells like victory and something faintly rotten. but still we're impressed. Even dreams are cold. You dream of running through snow barefoot, of water so icy it stings your teeth, of waking up mid-freeze and having to flex your fingers to make sure they still move. You get used to it, sort of. Or maybe you just forget what comfortable felt like in the first place. Your days continue with routine cruelty. Breakfast, if you can call it that, is thin gruel and sometimes olives. If you're lucky, the rest of the morning is training. Spear drills, shield formations, formation marching. The cold makes everything harder. Muscles tighten. Breath clouds the air. Hands crack open and bleed on wooden swords. Today, the trainer throws you a curved blade, Kappa style, and demands you swing until your arms give out. You obey, teeth chattering, cloak heavy with sleet. Each strike feels like pushing against granite, but you keep going, because stopping is weakness, and weakness gets you humiliated, or worse, forgotten. In the afternoon, you get a lesson on hygiene, which is hilarious, honestly. There's no soap, no clean water really, just the cold river and your cloak, which now functions as a towel, a mat, a pillow, and, apparently, a washcloth. You scrape off the dirt with smooth stones. One boy claims crocodile dung works like soap. We're not sure where he got that idea, or that dung, but he's proud of it. Fringe historians love to debate whether Spartans had cleanliness rituals, or if they just leaned into the grime. Your experience leans hard into the latter. At night, the chill creeps in again. You're exhausted, of course. Every joint stiff, every muscle tight, your belly a hollow echo chamber. But sleep isn't guaranteed. Not with the cold. Not with them. They're the trainers, yes, but also older boys. Seniors in their goge who act as unofficial enforcers. One of them, a towering 15-year-old with shoulders like temple columns, wanders through the dorm at random. If he thinks you look too comfortable, you'll get kicked. If you're shivering, he'll pour water on you to test your resolve. Sometimes it's worse. He once stole a younger boy's cloak in the dead of winter just to see if he could survive the night without it. He did. Barely. No punishment was given. Only respect. You're starting to understand the math here. Cruelty equals status. Endurance equals respect. There's no reward for comfort. There's only pride in surviving it. And somehow that's its own warmth. A dangerous one, but real. You begin to take a strange satisfaction in not flinching when your feet go numb, in not scratching when your skin burns with cold, in not asking for help. That last one matters most, because Spartans don't ask. They endure. That night, you tuck your feet into the crook of your knees and press your arms against your ribs to conserve heat. Someone's snoring. Another coughs in his sleep. The wind scratches against the shutters like an animal. And just when you think sleep might come, there's a new test. A voice hisses your name. A task whispered in the dark. Sneak across the field to the edge of the village, fetch a chunk of meat from the hunter's shed, and return before sunrise. No getting caught. No cloak. Barefoot. You nod, because to hesitate is to admit fear. You slip out into the black, breath fogging, each step biting into your soles. Your body screams to turn back. Your skin protests every gust of wind, but your training kicks in. You crouch low, time your movements, become the shadow Sparta wants you to be. You get the meat. You make it back. You even manage to steal a fig while you're at it. Back in your bedroll, you pass half the meat to the boy beside you. He doesn't speak, just eats. That's thanks enough. Tomorrow, it'll be back to bruises and drills. But tonight, you've stolen a little victory. A little warmth. And in this cold, cold world, small victories are how Spartans survive. It begins with a single command. Shield up. You grip the heavy circular slab of wood and bronze until your knuckles go white. It's heavier than it looks. Much heavier than the trainers made it seem when they first handed it to you. Grinning like men who know exactly what's about to happen. Your shield isn't just a tool. It's a test. A Spartan's aspes was sacred. More than a weapon, more than defense. It was your place in the line, your duty to the man beside you. And if you ever dropped it, you weren't just risking your life. You were endangering your entire phalanx. You don't really grasp all that yet. Not in your bones. But you're about to learn. The trainers line you up with the other boys. Each one has a shield and a wooden spear. You are told to lock together, shield edge to shield edge, forming a long wall of bronze circles that gleam faintly in the morning light. They bark orders at you. Tighten the line. Step in rhythm. Don't break rank. And when someone slips, they throw rocks. Not small ones either. There's no announcement when the mock battle begins. Just a sudden shout, and the older boys, your opponents, rush toward you from the tree line with blunt spears and manic glee. Your line wavers. Someone shouts. Your shield shudders as a spear tip cracks against it. You nearly stumble, but lean into the force like they taught you. You brace your foot, curl your toes into the dust, and shove back. Not alone, with the whole line. It's like pushing a wall made of wolves. Phalanx training is the crown jewel of the Spartan Agoj, and for good reason. It teaches coordination, loyalty, timing, and above all, fear management. Because in a real battle, nothing saves you like the man to your left, except when he's counting on you. Mainstream historians agree that the phalanx was more than a military tactic. It was a societal philosophy. Sparta trained you to think less like an individual and more like a living cell inside a massive, moving body. Today, you're not quite there yet. Your line breaks. Not entirely, but enough. One boy drops his shield and tries to run. He's immediately tackled by a trainer and dragged to the side. Not because he lost, because he ran. He'll be punished for that. Everyone will. Because in Sparta, losing isn't the worst offense. Cowardice is. You regroup. Lock shields again. This time, you're more focused. You learn to feel the boy next to you through the vibration in your arm. You sense when he's leaning too far forward, when he's hesitating, when he's getting tired. You adapt. You shift weight. You become the wall. That's the goal. Not to win, to hold. Hours pass. You are battered, bruised, sunburned, and starving. Your hand cramps around the handle of your shield, but you dare not drop it. Eventually, the trainers call the fight. You collapse in the dirt, lungs heaving, and for a moment, everything spins. Then comes the critique. You too slow. You shield too high. You good form, but you're letting your partner take the blows. The one who dropped his shield, he's not spoken to. Not yet. He's taken elsewhere. You will not see him again this week. That night, as you scrape blood from your knuckles with a twig and some ash, you reflect on what happened. You didn't win exactly, but you didn't break either. And in Sparta, that's more than good enough. Later that week, phalanx training continues, but with a new twist, weighted drills. Your cloak is tied to rocks, your shield filled with sand. You're ordered to march in perfect rhythm across rough terrain, chanting a war hymn while maintaining the line. If someone slips, everyone repeats the course. One boy jokes that they should tie the trainer to a rock and make him run. The trainer hears. You all run again. Humor still exists, but it's best whispered when the wind is blowing loud. You start to admire the older boys. Not the ones who shout loudest, but the ones who don't need to. The ones who move like they're carved from bronze. The ones who never lose balance. You wonder if you'll ever look like that, or if you'll even make it that far. Historians still argue whether Spartan phalanx formations were as invincible as later legends suggest. Some believe they relied more on discipline than genius tactics. But from your place in the line, breathing hard and bruised, it already feels like power. Not because you're winning, but because you're one part of something larger. One evening, the trainers introduce a new drill, night phalanx. No torches, no commands, just formation by feel, by instinct. You stumble at first, of course. Everyone does. You step too far, trip on a root, knock your shield into someone's arm. But you're not scolded. Not this time. The trainer just says, "Now you know why we fight by day." Still, you're proud, because for a moment there, just one, you moved in sync with the others. You could hear their breaths, time your steps, anticipate their motion. The phalanx wasn't perfect, but it was real. You dream of war that night. Not terrifying, chaotic war, but beautiful, orderly war. A wall of shields moving through a golden field. a rhythm of boots and spears and purpose. You, in the center, unbreakable. Of course, you wake up freezing again, and someone's cloak smells like goat pee. But that dream stays with you, because for the first time, you're starting to believe you are not just surviving this life. You're becoming something, a piece of the wall, a cog in Sparta's great, unyielding machine. And soon, you might even like it. They come for you in the middle of the night. No warning, no shout, just a whisper in the dark, a rough hand on your shoulder, and a voice that says, "Get up, no cloak." You sit up, bone stiff from yesterday's shield drill, brain fogged with sleep. Around you, the dorm remains quiet, except for the few other boys also being pulled from their mats. They don't speak. Neither do you. Outside, the air is cold and sharp. The stars above are roofless. You're marched out of the training yard, barefoot and silent, until you're beyond the city's edge. You know this part of the hills. It's where the older boys go when they disappear for a while and return different. Tonight, it's your turn. Welcome to the Cryptia. The name means hidden or secret. And that's exactly what it is. A shadow operation run by the Spartan state, composed of select teenage boys handpicked from their gauge. Your selection is considered an honor, though no one says this out loud. In fact, no one officially acknowledges the Cryptia even exists. But every Spartan boy knows about it. The mission is simple, though disturbing. Patrol the countryside alone, armed with a dagger and little else. Spy on the helots, Sparta's enslaved class. Eliminate anyone considered dangerous or defiant. No trial, no questions, just shadows and blood. Even today, historians still argue fiercely over what the Cryptia really was. Was it a rite of passage? A counterinsurgency operation? A terrifying form of psychological warfare against Sparta's enslaved majority? There's no consensus, but from your point of view, there's no denying this. It's real, and it's starting now. You're handed a small blade, bronze, unadorned, the kind of weapon you could easily lose in the dark, or in someone's ribs. You're told to head out into the hills, alone. No supplies, no fire, no name. Survive. This isn't training anymore. This is testing. You melt into the dark, every twig cracks sounding like a thunderclap beneath your feet. You try to walk silently, knees bent, feet soft. You remember everything the trainers taught you. How to breathe low, how to move like wind, how to disappear. But you're not here to hide. You're here to watch. You find a small cluster of helot huts near a dry stream bed. They're mostly asleep. A fire crackles weakly outside one of the shelters. A woman snores. A dog lifts its head, sniffs, and lies back down. You crouch in the bushes and watch. For hours. Waiting for what? An order? A sign. Eventually, your brain stops racing. Your breathing slows. And you feel it. That cold, creeping sensation of power. You, the ghost in the grass. You with a knife and a mission. You, a boy pretending to be a weapon. One helot stirs and walks to the woods to relieve himself. He doesn't see you. You could kill him, but you don't. You just watch. Silent. Hidden. It's unclear whether you were supposed to kill anyone that night. No one ever says. The point isn't always blood, it's readiness. Can you stalk? Can you think without being told? Can you survive without structure? You return before dawn, shivering and tired and vaguely ashamed. Not because you spared someone, but because you're not sure why you did, or what it says about you. The trainers say nothing when you return. They look at you. One nods. That's it. But you can feel something has shifted. Among the other boys, you're treated differently now. No one says Cryptia out loud, but they recognize it in you. The distance, the edge. One boy even flinches when you pass by too quietly. You don't correct him, because now you're learning something new. Fear is a weapon. Not just fear of pain, but the fear you cause in others. That is real power. You begin to notice how often the other boys look over their shoulders. How even the older ones give you space. You're still a trainee, but now you're something more. A shadow among the shadows. Later that week, another boy disappears for a night. Then another. One comes back with blood on his arm and doesn't speak for days. You wonder what happened. You wonder if he wonders about you. Sparta's elite warriors weren't chosen at random. They were groomed, hardened, and tested in silence. The Cryptia wasn't just a mission. It was an audition for the rest of your life. You've passed the first round, but that doesn't make it easier to sleep. In fact, you sleep less now. Not from fear, but from vigilance. You hear every movement in the dorm, every breath, every twitch of a blanket. You're becoming what Sparta wants, always ready, always watching, always on the edge. That edge, though, is sharp, and sometimes you wonder if the part of you that once laughed during supper, or missed your mother, or cried when your friend was taken away, that part may never come back. You can't afford to miss it, because Sparta doesn't mourn boys who vanish into the dark. It just sharpens the next blade. The bruises come first. A deep purple crescent blooming along your side from a wooden staff. A black eye from a too slow dodge. Scrapes along your knuckles. Sand embedded in your skin like tiny flecks of grit from the last bout. You're used to pain now. Not just enduring it, but reading it, carrying it, dishing it out. And in that strange, brutal atmosphere, something else begins to bloom too. Friendship. Not the kind you might remember from childhood. No lazy afternoons. No whispered secrets or shared toys. This is a blood-forged bond, shaped in sweat and bruises, born in the fire of shared hardship. You and a few of the others, those who've lasted this long, begin to see one another not just as competitors, but as comrades, or perhaps something more complex. In Sparta, affection is not discouraged. It's structured. Enter the Erasts and Eraminos relationship. Spartan society pairs older male warriors, Erastai, with younger trainees, Ceramenor. The mentorship is supposed to be educational, supportive, a senior partner guiding a younger through the harsh labyrinth of becoming a Spartan. And often it is that. But the lines are blurred, uncomfortably so. Sometimes the bond stays strictly platonic. Other times, well, historians still debate the nature of these relationships. Were they romantic, sexual, spiritually close, all of the above? No single answer exists, because ancient sources contradict each other, and modern scholars argue endlessly over interpretation. All you know is this: an older Spartan has taken an interest in you. He's not cruel, not like the instructors. He watches your form during drills and offers whispered corrections. He lends you a better spear grip. He once pressed a piece of dried meat into your hand when he thought no one else was looking. You don't speak of it, but you feel it. You're not alone in this dynamic. Other boys in your cohort also have mentors. Some relationships are tense, others close, a few awkward. The instructors never comment. In fact, they encourage the idea that a young warrior should be inspired to fight harder if his mentor is watching from the sidelines. And it works. You push harder during spear throws. You train until your limbs tremble. You stare down boys twice your size in wrestling matches, whether out of pride, fear, or something softer you can't name. You want to be seen, to be chosen. Meanwhile, friendships among your peers deepen too. You start to know each other's tells. Who limps after practice, who grinds their teeth in sleep, who sneaks extra herbs into their dinner porridge. There's one boy in particular, lean and sharp-eyed, who always jokes before a drill. He calls you Sunburn because you blush easily when instructors shout, "Too close." You pretend to hate the nickname. You don't. One night, after an especially vicious mock battle, you lie beside him in the dark, both aching and covered in dirt. He mutters something half-sarcastic about joining the Perioikoi, the non-citizen class that doesn't have to do this madness. You both snort at the thought. Even imagining a life outside the Agoge is treasonous. But there it is, flickering behind your eyes like a tiny, traitorous fire. A life with choice, with softness, with the ability to laugh without consequences. Of course, you don't say any of that aloud. You just lie there, listening to the slow breathing of the dorm, and share a crust of leftover barley bread in silence. That in Sparta is affection, quiet loyalty, no fuss, just presence. Still, this is no paradise of brotherhood. There's jealousy, whispered accusations, sudden fights. One boy loses a tooth. Another disappears after an argument with an instructor and doesn't come back. You don't ask where he went. No one does. Remember that knife you carried in the cryptia? The one that made you feel powerful in the dark? Here, your friendships are the same, sharp, intimate, and always one wrong move away from danger. But still you hold them close, because in a place where your worth is measured by how well you endure pain, how straight you stand under inspection, how many lashes you survive without screaming, even the briefest warmth becomes sacred, even a joke, even a nickname. One morning, you wake to find a chunk of waxed linen tucked under your sleeping mat. It's a poor drawing of your lopsided phalanx stance, sketched by someone who clearly spent too much time watching you mess up. You know exactly who left it. You don't mention it, but you keep it. By now, you've stopped counting the years. The days blur together. Morning drills, midday contests, afternoon inspections, cold dinners, aching limbs. But what you do count is who's still with you, and who isn't. Of the original boys who entered the Agoj with you, barely half remain. Some left for mysterious illnesses. Others failed tests. A few simply broke. And that's the rule, not the exception. Spartan survival isn't about strength alone. It's about holding on when even your soul starts to slip. So yes, you've learned to fight. But more importantly, you've learned who you trust to watch your back when you do. And even if your friendships are forged in hardship, maybe because of that, they're stronger than any bronze blade. You'll need them soon, because the games are about to start. You wake to the sound of a flute. Not a gentle melody, mind you. This is a wild, staccato piping, the kind that makes your heartbeat skip and your toes twitch in rhythm before your eyes even open. Across the dusty courtyard, boys are already forming into lines, their red cloaks snapping like whipcords in the early breeze. Today is not a day for drills. Today is for dancing, and insults, and a little friendly brawling, though in Sparta. Friendly often involves dislocated shoulders and the occasional missing tooth. The festival is called the Gymnopedia, which literally means the festival of naked youth. Yep, naked. Welcome to Sparta, where dancing without clothes is considered both a civic duty and a form of military training. You and the others, now leaner, tougher, harder than you ever imagined, march into the gathering place of the city. The sun is already burning down, and the hard-packed ground radiates heat through the soles of your feet. Elders watch from stone benches, squinting, judging. Mothers are here too, arms crossed, faces unreadable. You're not here to impress your family. You're here to prove that you belong. Each group of trainees performs ritual war dances in front of the crowd. No gentle pirouettes here. These are stomping, lunging movements, mimicking battle stances and shield formations. You leap, twist, shout, feint. Timing is everything. You must move as one unit, even while the music changes tempo unpredictably. It's like dancing while dodging a hailstorm. The crowd is silent, and then come the taunts. Because what is Spartan education without a few bruised egos? The older boys, those already accepted as men, line up to hurl insults at your dancing form. Not random insults, mind you. Targeted, poetic burns, carefully crafted to sting the soul. They call out your failures from months ago, mock your weak side in phalanx training, even point out the time you tripped over your own sandal and landed in a bowl of lentils. It's tradition, and it's public. If you flinch, you lose. If you scowl, you're marked as undisciplined. But if you smile, gods help you if you laugh. You earn a quiet nod from the onlookers. Humor, it turns out, is just another weapon in the Spartan arsenal. Historians still argue whether this was purely military training, or something more theatrical, an art form even. Ancient sources are torn between praising the Gymnopedia for its cultural value and criticizing it as emotionally brutal. The truth, as always in Sparta, is probably somewhere in the uncomfortable middle. You survive your performance. Barely. Then, as the sun climbs higher and the air thickens with sweat and dust, it's time for the wrestling matches. Now, forget any schoolyard wrestling you've seen. Spartan wrestling is about dominance. There's no padding, no points, and certainly no referees with whistles. It's just you, your opponent, and the hard-packed earth. You step into the ring. Your opponent is that wiry kid from another Agode unit. The one who once split your lip in phalanx practice and smirked while doing it. Perfect. You bow stiffly. He lunges. It's all motion and breath, arms locking, legs sweeping, bodies twisting. The crowd murmurs as you take a hard fall, your shoulder grinding into the gravel. You ignore it. Wrap your leg around his. Flip him. He rolls. Grabs your wrist. You twist free. Your muscles scream. But so do his. You both end up on the ground, panting, tangled, glaring. Draw. But no shame in that. Not in Sparta. If anything, mutual survival is its own badge of honor. Later, as the sun begins to dip and the air cools, you and your cohort gather to eat. There's laughter tonight, a rare treat. Someone mimics one of the elders with terrifying accuracy. Someone else improvises a dance mocking that kid who tripped during the war steps. Even your mentor joins the amusement, ruffling your hair like you're a goat who just learned to jump. You're still sore, still hungry, still expected to march out at dawn for javelin drills. But for tonight, you sit with friends, belly aching from laughter, and feel, if only briefly, like this might all be worth it. The real battles haven't come yet. But here, among dancers and jokers, you begin to understand something vital. Spartan strength isn't just about muscle or discipline. It's about performance, presence, poise under pressure, and maybe, just maybe, the ability to laugh while someone calls you goat-footed shield kisser in front of the entire city. Tomorrow, the mock battles begin, and there will be nothing funny about those. Dawn doesn't arrive quietly in Sparta. It crashes down on you like a war hammer, complete with shouting, clattering armor, and the sharp tang of boiled onions drifting in from the mess hall. Your muscles ache from yesterday's dancing and wrestling. Every step feels like you're wearing lead sandals, but there's no sympathy waiting for you. Today is the Platonistas, the brutal mock battle that masquerades as a game, though nothing about it feels playful. You and the other trainees shuffle toward the island in the river Eurotas, where this so-called contest unfolds. The Platonistas is held in a place that's basically a swampy, half-flooded arena, surrounded by plane trees. It's muddy, uneven, and designed to punish every misstep. You line up opposite the other team, chest bare, feet slick with river sludge, and try not to think about the number of boys who've left this field with broken jaws. There's no clear set of rules. You're divided into two teams, facing off like rival war bands, each with the goal of driving the other into retreat. No swords or spears, just fists, elbows, knees, and occasionally a well-placed headbutt. You can barely hear the signal to begin before the chaos explodes. You charge. It's like ramming into a wall of wet leather in fury. Limbs tangle, bodies crash, mud splashes into your eyes. A fist glances off your cheek. You shove someone face first into the water and immediately get tackled from the side. There's shouting. Someone might be bleeding already. You can't tell if it's them or you. There's no time to think. Just react. The instructors circle the melee, arms crossed, occasionally barking reminders not to maim anyone permanently. Mostly, though, they just watch. This isn't about form. It's about aggression, cohesion, instinct. You lose your footing twice. Each time, you're hauled upright by one of your teammates, only to be thrown back into the fray like a human battering ram. You land a solid strike that earns a grunt. You take a knee to the ribs in return. Still, you press forward. Eventually, one team starts to falter, slipping back step by grueling step. Yours, thankfully, holds firm. With one final push, you and the others send the last defenders scrambling into the reeds. You win. There's no trophy, no applause, just a slight nod from a leathery old instructor and a ladle of lukewarm stew waiting at the barracks. But you feel it. This was a different kind of test. The Platonistas, scholars say, is one of the stranger elements of Spartan training. Historians still argue whether it was meant to simulate phalanx warfare or was just a hyper-violent way of letting boys settle grudges. Either way, it left scars, emotional and otherwise. Later, you sit beside the river, rinsing off layers of grime. A fish nibbles at your toe. You swat it away, only to laugh when it returns, more determined than ever. Beside you, someone shows off a black eye like it's a badge of honor. It is. That night, the instructor makes a rare comment. "You fought well," he says, voice low. You remember the line. That's all. But in Sparta, those 4 words are like receiving a golden laurel. You remember the line. You didn't run. You didn't flinch. You covered your brothers, took hits for them, moved like a pack of wolves. That's what being a Spartan means. The rest of the week is spent in recovery, but recovery in Sparta just means slightly fewer bruises. You clean armor. You practice shield wall maneuvers. You run drills barefoot in gravel. And at night, you sleep like a rock tossed into a well. Sometimes you dream of real war. Sometimes of the river fish. Sometimes of going home, but not often. That version of you, the child who cried when he left his mother, feels like someone else entirely now. You've learned to let pain slide off you like oil. You've learned to watch other boys get injured without flinching. You've even learned to land a punch without closing your eyes. This isn't the end of your training, but the mock battles mark a turning point. From now on, the instructors stop treating you like a child. You've earned something, respect maybe, or at least the right to be ignored a little less. Tomorrow brings a different kind of test. A festival, a crowd, and a very long stick with sharp points at both ends. You try not to think about it. For now, the bruises settle in like old friends. And the mud between your toes, honestly, not the worst part of your day. You're awakened not by a shout this time, but by the distant hum of drums. Rhythmic, measured, unrelenting. Today is the festival of Diamastagosis, a whipping ceremony held at the sanctuary of Artemis Orthia. It's one of the few times Spartan boys are displayed like prize horses for public amusement and pain. Tourists from across Greece come to watch it. Yes, Sparta doesn't encourage luxury or wealth, but they certainly don't mind charging admission to see their youth flayed for sport. You've heard the rumors. Some boys collapse. Some bleed so much the stone floor stays red for days. And once, allegedly, someone died. But historians still argue whether that was true or just legend polished up for effect. You marched out with the others, bare-chested, under a pale sky. Your skin, already toughened by sun, wind, and countless bruises, feels newly fragile today. The sanctuary looms ahead, an old stone courtyard, surrounded by spectators whispering into their pomegranates. The altar to Artemis is at the center. It's said to still smell faintly of blood, though maybe that's just imagination, or history thick in the air. You line up with your age group. No one speaks. Even the usual elbow jabs and jokes are absent. This isn't a mock battle. This is performance, ritual, spectacle. And your job today is to not scream. The whipping begins. One by one, boys step forward. A priest blesses them. An older youth, often someone who went through this last year, takes the whip. Thin, flexible leather, designed to cut but not kill. Supposedly. You watch the first few. Red streaks bloom across their backs. Some flinch. One clenches his jaw so hard you worry his teeth will crack. The crowd murmurs approval when a boy stands stoic. Hisses when someone stumbles. This is not a place for empathy. Your turn comes faster than expected. You step forward. The priest doesn't look at you. He mutters a prayer, gestures, and steps away. You face the crowd, knees locked, fists clenched, and brace. The first lash comes like lightning. Your back lights up with fire. It's not the worst pain you've felt, but it's the most public. You hear the gasp of some woman, maybe from Corinth. You imagine she's writing about you in her travel diary. The second lash lands. Then the third. You count them like waves. Like seconds. Like sins. You don't scream. You don't even flinch, though your vision narrows at the edges. By the fifth strike, blood has joined the sweat on your back. You feel it trickle along your spine like a lazy beetle. You last 10 lashes. Then you're done. Not the highest number, not the lowest. But you stayed upright. That's what matters. You limp back to your place in the line. A boy next to you nods once. That's the only approval you'll get. The origin of the ritual is debated. Some say it began as an offering to appease Artemis after a theft from her temple. Others argue it was a practical test. Weed out the weak, reward the stoic. A few fringe scholars claim it was just a way to entertain bored Spartan elders with too much time and not enough empathy. But for you, today, it's another badge, another scar on your resume. Later, they give you vinegar and honey to rub on your wounds. You hiss when it touches the open lash, but it helps. Kind of. That night, you're quiet. Everyone is. The barracks feel heavy. No one jokes. Even the boy who usually brags about everything. How many figs he can steal. How many chin-ups he can do. Stares at the ceiling in silence. Your back pulses with heat. You can't lie comfortably. So you sit up and lean against the stone wall, letting the chill of it cool your skin. In the darkness, someone whispers, "I heard one kid once made it through 25. Someone else grunts. Probably dead now. You don't join in. You're too tired. And secretly, you're glad your tour is over. Yet part of you also understands why they do it, why you endured it. Because in Sparta, suffering is a ladder. Each step up proves you're tougher than the one before you. And one day, maybe, that toughness is what saved your life when arrows rain down and your shield arm goes numb. Or maybe it just gets you a better spot at the mess table. Either way, the scar on your back will stay. Long after your muscles heal. Long after the whispers stop. It's a reminder, not of pain, but of what you didn't do. You didn't cry. You didn't fall. And that means something here. The red cloak feels heavier than you expected. It's coarse, scratchy, and dyed with crushed madder root until it glows like fresh blood in sunlight. It's not meant to be comfortable. It's meant to be unmistakable. You are no longer just a boy in training. You're 20 now, and at long last, you're a Spartiates, a full citizen soldier of Sparta. And with that honor comes the red cloak and the Syssitia. Ah yes, the mess hall. The eternal brotherhood of soup, barley bread, and the same 20 faces for the rest of your life. This is where you'll eat every single meal until you're too old to lift a spear, or too injured to hold your place in line. To join a Syssitia, your assigned dining group is to be truly accepted, but it's not automatic. Your peers must unanimously vote you in. Just one no, and you're out, and your whole future wobbles dangerously on its heel. You remember a boy last year, tough, loyal, smart, who got blackballed. No one ever said why. He just disappeared into the non-citizen class, like a red candle snuffed out. But you passed. Barely, perhaps, but a seat was cleared for you. You shuffle into the low stone hall, where smoke from the central hearth gives the ceiling a dusky haze. Everyone sits on the floor, backs to the wall, bowls in front of them. Your cloak itches your sunburned neck. You ignore it. The meal arrives, black broth, the infamous Spartan delicacy, made from pig's blood, vinegar, and salt. It looks like tar and tastes worse. Even ancient Greek comedians mocked it. There's an old joke that a Spartan cook once offered it to a visiting king, who gagged and asked if it was used for poisoning criminals. You take your first sip. It's earthy, tangy, like licking a rusted sword that someone dipped in brine, and regret. But you don't grimace. That's part of it, too. The rest of the meal is simple. Barley bread, a handful of figs, maybe a piece of boiled pork if you're lucky. And always, always water. No wine in excess here. Spartans may love battle, but drunkenness is for other cities. Tonight, the mood in the mess hall is quiet but celebratory. Someone slaps your back hard enough to reopen a scab from the whipping ceremony. You smile anyway. Then comes the ritual of storytelling. One older man asks a question, something moral, something strategic. Tonight's prompt: if a Spartan soldier flees but lives to fight again, is he still brave? That sparks a slow, thoughtful argument among the group. The older men quote Tertius, the Spartan war poet. The younger ones roll their eyes. Historians still argue whether the Syssitia was more about discipline or social control. Maybe both. Maybe neither. Some fringe theories suggest it evolved from ancient tribal feasts, designed to bind warrior bands together in a blood oath of lentils and judgmental stares. All you know is it's home now. After the meal, There's training. Yes, still. Becoming a Spartiates doesn't mean your mornings get easier. You run drills. You wrestle. You maintain perfect formation with your phalanx unit. Your shield always covering the man to your left. One slip, one mistimed step, and the entire structure collapses. It's like a deadly group dance choreographed by a sadist with a bronze obsession. You're not the best, but you're far from the worst. And for the first time in your life, you feel something foreign, something warm, belonging. Later, you return to your barracks, not a private home. Full Spartans are still expected to sleep among their peers. Marriage is permitted now, technically, but it's more of a formality. Husbands sneak away to visit their wives in the night like guilty thieves. Love is less important than loyalty to the state. Still, you've met her. She's tall, sharper than you, probably, with a dry wit and a family lineage even older than yours. She asked you flatly if you planned on dying in your first battle. You told her only if it was a dramatic one. She smirked. You like that. You don't see her often. But sometimes, after long drills or brutal punishment runs, you think about her, just long enough to remember what else might exist beyond bruises and broth. That night, as you drift into sleep beneath your red cloak, you realize you've crossed an invisible line. You're no longer being shaped. You are the shape, a product of a system thousands of years in the making. Brutal, unyielding, focused. Tomorrow you'll march. Tomorrow you might even fight. But tonight, for a few quiet hours, you simply exist. A Spartan. Your breath fogs the cool morning air as you tighten the leather straps of your greaves. A quiet tension ripples across the camp like a drawn bowstring. No jokes today. No wrestling matches or half-muttered insults. Just silence, broken only by the soft clink of armor and the far-off clatter of Argive scouts moving in the hills. You're going to war. It's your first real campaign. Against Argos, a city that's been Sparta's rival since the age of bronze and badly written epics. The cause of this particular conflict? Grain routes, border disputes. Someone insulted someone's hero cult. It doesn't matter. To Sparta, war is always expected. It's not a deviation from peace. It's the maintenance of order. And today, you're the order. Your formation lines up before dawn. Rows upon rows of men, with shields overlapping like a wall of tortoise shells. The aspes, or hoplon, is your life, nearly 3 feet across and heavy enough to deadlift your dignity out of the mud. It covers you on the left and the man beside you on the right. If he dies, it's your fault. If you die, it might be his. You all take one step forward, then another, and another. The phalanx advances like a storm cloud, slow and inevitable. You don't march in silence. That's for funerals. Spartans sing, literally sing, on the way to battle. War hymns by Tertius rise up from the ranks in gravel-voiced harmony. They're designed to keep rhythm, to instill courage, and maybe to scare the poor Argives out of their sandals. Better to fall in battle than live in shame. You chant. It sounds noble. It also sounds suspiciously like propaganda when your bowels are tying sailor knots inside your stomach. Then you see them. The Argive line glints across the field, their shields polished to a mirror sheen, their helmets capped with white horsehair. They outnumber you. Slightly. You grip your spear tighter. You've trained for this since you were 7. Every ache, every cut, every hour spent trying not to blink during punishments. All of it was for this one push into screaming metal. That happens. No horn, no declaration. Just a guttural roar as the phalanxes smash into each other with the force of ancient grudges and teenage trauma. The front ranks collide in a crunch of wood and bone and bronze. You jam your spear forward, blindly. You hear someone scream. You pray it wasn't from your line. War, it turns out, is not like training. It's not clean. It's not choreographed. It's not even fair. Spears snap. Shields shatter. Someone next to you goes down, and you feel warm blood spray your cheek like a kiss from Hades. You shove forward. That's all you can do. Forward. A scholar centuries later would say Spartan warriors moved as one body with unyielding discipline. What they don't mention is how your arms are shaking so badly you can barely hold your spear, and you've already vomited twice in your mouth. One Argive breaks through. He's young, maybe your age. You lock eyes for half a second before he lunges, blade raised. Instinct takes over. You bash his chest with your shield. Feel his breath rush out of him, then thrust your broken spear into the soft spot just beneath his chin. He falls. You stare. Then someone drags you forward. There's no time to count the dead. Not yet. Hours blur. You lose track of time, of space. You could be on the moon for all you know, and the moon could smell like iron and sweat. Then finally, the Argives retreat. Their line buckles like a badly fitted sandal strap. You chase for a few yards, just enough to humiliate them, before the command to halt cracks across the field like a Zeus himself is yelling it. You stop. You breathe. You realize you're still alive. Barely. The sun is lower now. Slanted golden light makes the battlefield look almost pretty, until your eyes adjust and you see the sprawled bodies. Your friends. The Argives. Everyone looks the same in death. You find your commander, who pats your shoulder once. A Spartan-style embrace. If he says you did well, he does it in silence. That's high praise. You limp back to camp. Your hand shakes too hard to untie your greaves. Someone helps you. You don't know who. Later, you sit with your messmates. No one speaks. You drink water that tastes like copper. You clean your blade with a rag that used to be white. Historians still debate how often Spartans actually saw combat. Some suggest that between festivals and training drills, actual full-scale warfare was relatively rare. Others claim they fought more than records admit, especially in border skirmishes and proxy fights. You don't care what scholars think. You were there. That night, you lie awake staring at the stars. One of them twinkles more than the others, and for some reason, you decide it's the boy you killed. He probably had a name. He probably had someone who once tucked him into bed, too. You press your forehead to your shield and try not to feel anything. It almost works. You walk through the gates of Sparta with your shield intact, but something inside you feels altered, changed. War has a funny way of stripping the wax off your soul, and now you're left with something raw and sun-bleached underneath. The old phrase echoes in your mind. Come back with your shield, or on it. And you did. But you also came back with memories that buzz behind your eyes when things go quiet. You've got the cloak now, the crimson one every full citizen wears. It drapes from your shoulders like a badge of honor, or maybe a warning sign. The city welcomes you with no cheering crowds, no fanfare, just nods from elders who survived their own battles long ago. In Sparta, coming back alive means one thing. You're ready for more. You return to your Syssitia, the communal mess hall that's been your second home since age 20. The black broth is still terrible, some blend of pig's blood, vinegar, and salt. One scholar once described it as something a dead man might dream of. You eat anyway. You always do. At night, the younger recruits look at you differently. You're no longer the boy trying to impress the older warriors. Now you are the older warrior. Sort of. They glance sideways when you speak. They straighten their backs when you pass. You've joined the ranks of the full Spartiates, though the title tastes a bit too fresh on your tongue. You're 21. Already you've outlived the weak and the unlucky. Already your name is scratched into Sparta's long lineage of trained perfection. But you know what it cost. You know how quickly that perfection can splinter on the tip of a spear. Your days settle into a rhythm now, though never a soft one. Training doesn't stop. Discipline doesn't ease. Even in peacetime, you drill constantly. Morning phalanx exercises, midday wrestling bouts, evening discussions about war tactics and virtue. Leisure is not a Spartan virtue. If anything, it's suspicious. You're expected to marry now, or at least start courting. Spartan women aren't like women from other city-states. They're strong, often stronger than you, especially emotionally. They manage land, run estates, and famously tell their husbands, "Come back with your shield or on it," with completely serious faces. Historians still argue whether Spartan marriages were truly romantic or more of a civic duty. Courtship often involved secret nighttime visits and some light kidnapping rituals. Yes, really. A common custom had the bride shave her head and wear men's clothing, likely to ease the transition from soldier life. Romantic, right? You meet your match during one of these visits. She's blunt, clever, and faster than you at javelin throwing. You like her instantly. She tolerates you. That's a good start. Marriage, however, doesn't change your daily duties. You still sleep at the barracks. You're still expected to dine with your Sisisha, not your spouse. Domestic life is kept at a low simmer. Personal feelings take a back seat to public loyalty. And yet, even in this rigid system, a flicker of something human survives. One day you catch yourself laughing, really laughing, during spear practice, when someone's helmet falls over their eyes and they spin in circles like a confused turtle. For a moment, it feels like you're 7 again, not a man who's held a dying soldier in his arms. The trauma doesn't go away. Not fully. You dream in flashes, shield slamming, bones cracking, that Argive boy's startled eyes. But you're learning to live with it, or at least live around it. Sparta offers no healing rituals, no soothing words, no temple for the soul. It offers routine, predictability, the same drills, the same food, the same cloak. Oddly enough, it helps. There's a saying among the elders, a Spartan who lives long enough forgets what softness even felt like. You're beginning to understand it. Not just physically. Your body has been calloused for years, but emotionally too. Empathy fades. Grief shrinks. Or maybe you just file it away in some drawer in your mind labeled unnecessary. Your duties expand. You help train younger recruits now. 12-year-olds just starting to lie about how hungry they are. You watch as they fumble through drills, steal cheese from the kitchens, and cry into their cloaks when they think no one's looking. And you don't mock them. You remember too well. Once, one of them asks if you've ever killed anyone. You hesitate. Then you lie. No, you say. The boy looks relieved, and you let him keep that comfort a while longer. Sparta's enemies shift with time. Argos 1 year, Athens the next. There's always a new skirmish, a new border to protect. You take part in several more. None are as terrifying as the first, but none are easy either. You've stopped thinking of victory as glorious. Now it just means more nights at home and fewer letters sent to grieving mothers. Your body starts to change. Muscles stay firm, but old wounds twinge in the cold. You're 28 and feel 40. Your hairline begins to admit defeat. Your fingers never quite uncurl from the shape of a spear grip. Still, you press on. One evening, a visiting poet recites an ode about Spartan honor in the barracks. The younger men listen with wide eyes, soaking in every line. You watch their faces and wonder what they'll look like after their first real battle. There's no retirement plan in Sparta, no cottage by the sea. You'll keep training, keep fighting, keep mentoring, until you either die in battle or age into one of the Geronts, the Council of Elders. That's the best-case scenario, and somehow you're okay with that, because you've become what Sparta forged, a blade that never bends, a man who doesn't flinch, a citizen who understands that comfort is a lie, and glory always comes at a cost. You sleep that night without dreams. For once. You rise early, as always. The sun barely nudges over the Taygetus Mountains, and the air smells like ash, iron, and the faint sweetness of fig trees blooming far from the training fields. You've been a Spartan warrior for over a decade now. The rhythm of life, so once brutal and foreign, is simply your pulse now. You march, drill, eat, watch, correct. You live in armor even when not wearing it. But something has shifted. Quietly, without fanfare, you've become the one others watch. At the Sisisha, younger men lean in when you speak. At training fields, boys mimic your stance when they think you're not looking. You're not the wide-eyed recruit anymore. You're the measure. That doesn't mean you get to slow down. This is Sparta. If anything, the pressure grows. You're now expected to embody the laconic ideal, bravery, silence, discipline. No dramatics. No whining. Certainly no softness. Even laughter must be sparse and well-earned. And now, perhaps most jarringly, you begin to judge. You're invited to observe the next batch of 7-year-olds. Fresh arrivals to the agoge, their heads shaved, their tunics barely hanging over scrawny knees. They try to stand tall. You can see the ones faking it. You can also see which ones might survive. You remember your own inspection, the cold hands, the stares, the unspoken threat of abandonment. You remember the baby who didn't make it, left on Mount Taygetus because of a crooked leg. That choice still echoes in your bones, even if you never say it aloud. And now you're the one doing the looking. Historians still debate whether this final stage of Spartan life brought contentment or quiet sorrow. Some believe older warriors reveled in their respected status. Others argue they lived haunted by the boys they once were, and by the boys who didn't make it. You try not to think about the ones who didn't make it. Instead, you focus on tradition. You join the council in selecting mentors for the newest teens. You help oversee ritualized festivals, including the famous Platonistas, the violent ball game that's basically rugby with rules designed by bloodthirsty philosophers. You break up fights before they get lethal. Sometimes you don't. Sparta doesn't coddle. Your wife, yes, you're still married, technically, runs your estate now. You visit more often than you did in your 20s. The conversations are brief, but warm. You have children, though you weren't there for their births. Your daughter is fierce, like her mother. Your son is nervous. You don't hold that against him, but you also don't say it out loud. You begin training him with a wooden spear before he can write his name. This is what it means to be a Spartan until death. You don't retire. You simply evolve. From student to soldier, to mentor, to judge. You pass along the rituals, even as they carve deeper grooves into your own spirit. Still, there are moments, late at night, under stars like cold silver teeth. You remember the boy you killed in Argos. His face has softened in your mind. He looks like every boy you train now. You don't say this to anyone. Spartans don't confess, but you carry it always. You think back to the Cryptia, the secret patrols through hellid villages. You remember the fear in their eyes, and the fear in yours. The state told you it was necessary. You're still not sure. But doubt isn't something you speak of. You file it away, like so much else. The wind down of your body is subtle, then sudden. One day you leap over a training ditch and land poorly. Your knee aches for weeks. Another morning you wake with a spear arm that won't quite lift above your shoulder. No one says you're old, but they start asking what you remember more often than what you recommend. When the efforts call you to sit on judgment panels, you feel a strange mix of pride and exhaustion. You've become part of the system that once terrified you. A boy stands before you now, mud-streaked, one eye swelling from a fight, and you must decide if he's showing strength or defiance. You make the call. You always do. But afterward, you sit longer than usual at the training field, staring out at the ridgeline where you once raced your peers barefoot in the freezing dawn. You miss the sensation of simply running. Now, most of your energy goes to watching the next generation sharpen their edges. Some break early. Others show promise. A few shine so brightly, it almost hurts to look at them. You wonder how many will survive their first battle. You wonder how many will come back with their shields. That night, lying beneath your cloak in a chamber colder than it needs to be, you hear soft rain falling on the tiled roof, and in the distance, past the city walls, past the sleeping farms, you hear thunder roll over the hills. Another war coming? Probably. There's always another. But for now, just for now, you exhale. Sparta still stands. And so do you. The fire in your barracks hearth has burned low now, casting a quiet orange flicker across the stone floor. Outside, Sparta sleeps. No clashing shields, no barked orders, no drills. Just the gentle hush of night winding its way through the olive groves and into the mountains beyond. Your body, worn from years of armor and expectation, sinks a little deeper into its resting shape. The aches are familiar friends by now. You know where each scar came from. You've stopped counting. In this quiet, you feel something rare, stillness. No one's asking anything of you right now. No drills to command, no meals to eat standing, no judgments to hand down. Just this long, Slow breath at the end of a life lived in bronze and discipline. Your eyes close. You dream not of war, but of warm sand under bare feet, of fig trees in bloom, of the boy you once were, holding a wooden sword and imagining glory. And even if Sparta forgets your name one day, as it surely will, you've left your mark in the muscle memory of its warriors, in the rhythm of boots across the courtyard, in the deep silence between battles. You are, and always will be, Spartan. Sleep well, warrior. You've earned it.